Hi, welcome or welcome back. Was 1997 the single greatest year in PC gaming history? I mean, it's a serious contender, right? 3D acceleration was hitting its stride, developers were bursting with creative freedom, and genres we now take for granted were either being born or perfected right before our eyes. Today, we're gonna talk about the best of the best. So if you're ready to be shocked by some of the choices, let's jump right in. First up, a game that made being bad feel so good. Dungeon Keeper. From the geniuses at Bullfrog, this wasn't your typical hero's journey. You were the villain, carving out dungeons, slapping your imps into shape and defending your gold from goody-two-shoes heroes. It was a hilarious and brilliantly strategic masterpiece of reverse RPG design, and it's still considered as one of the best games ever made. Lara Croft returned, and she meant business in Tomb Raider 2. Not as in lemonade stand business, more like tight shorts, even tighter tank top and a lot of action. This sequel took everything from the original and cranked it to 11. We've got vehicles, bigger environments, more combat, and that iconic moment in the Croft Manor training stage where you lock the butler in a freezer. Don't lie, you've done it too. Lara wasn't just a character anymore, she was a global phenomenon. If you wanted your action dark, gory and full of personality, you played Blood. Or Postal, or Mortal Kombat, or Carmageddon. Well, there were quite a few of them, it seems, and some will even be in this video, but Blood was definitely among the most memorable. Running on the famous build engine, this horror-themed FPS had you playing a Scaleb, an undead gunslinger seeking revenge. With a flare gun that set enemies ablaze, pitchfork and bundles of dynamite you could kick around, it was violent, creative and a cult classic for a reason. Yeah, na na na. Yeah, na na na. While others looked to sci-fi or fantasy, Ensemble Studios looked to history with Age of Empires. This RTS was a revelation, and I say it as someone who usually doesn't play games in the genre as they're not my thing. And yet, not only I played AoE, but also had a lot of fun with it. It starts in the Stone Age and advances all the way to the Iron Age, allowing you to build a civilization from scratch, all the while being deceptively addictive. Diablo owned 1997. It might have divided the community a little, splitting it into those who consider it an RPG and those who thought of it as blasphemy, but it didn't change the fact that both groups played it. Heck, I even carried by then so legal copy from a friend on a bag full of diskettes packed with RAR, just to be able to play it at home. Well, soon enough I bought an original, but my first ever memory of it is how heavy the bag was and that I have to go there again as some discs inevitably died on my way home. Either way, Diablo redefined RPG into ARPG, stripping it down to a pure, addictive loop of kill, loot and level up. The gothic atmosphere was suffocating, the sound design was iconic, and with Battle.net, Blizzard opened the floodgates for the online co-op dungeoneering. The Lord of Terror had truly arrived in 1997. If you had a need for speed, well, there was Need for Speed 2. The special edition in particular was an updated version of the original and a true graphical showcase for the new 3DFX Voodoo cards. And let me tell you, nothing made you feel as poor and behind the technological curve like seeing how it looked at your friend's place who had a Voodoo. Still, whether it was made out of chunky pixels or smooth surfaces, Need for Speed gave you that insane speed rush that many of us craved. LucasArts broke the world with their incredible The Secret of the Monkey Island, then followed it up with an amazing sequel, and eventually, in 1997 kept what made earlier games great and added incredible high-resolution animated movie-like presentation to The Curse of Monkey Island, and adventure games never looked this good. With stunning hand-drawn graphics, full voice acting and some of the funniest writing in gaming history, Guybrush Threepwood's Fair Doubting was pure point-and-click perfection.
I really wish I didn't have to do that.
Before it was a 3D, world-dominating behemoth, Grand Theft Auto started right here, from a top-down perspective. And even if it featured lives, a limited number of these in fact, which is unusual for the series, it was still a worldwide phenomenon. The freedom of GTA was exhilarating. Steal any car, cause mayhem, or try to climb the criminal ladder mission by mission. It was controversial, it was fresh, and it laid the foundation for an empire. The first Quake changed the world, and the second was its software's technical powerhouse. It wasn't just a sequel, it was a showcase for the future of 3D gaming, featuring new engine, colored lighting, hardware acceleration, and modular asset loading among others. The single-player campaign was a sci-fi epic, but the multiplayer was a perfectly balanced ballet of rocket jumps and precision aiming that defined competitive FPS for years. Its success even spawned its own successor in the form of Quake 3 Arena, which was a multiplayer shooter only. For those who preferred a calmer approach to domination than an all-out war, there was Settlers 2 Gold Edition. It wasn't a game about frantic clicking. It was a charming and complex title focused on building of efficient supply chains first and foremost, and combat later. Way later. Watching a little woodcutters and bakers scurry about their tasks, literally doing what they were assigned to, was just incredibly satisfying. In fact, it was kinda like a moving diorama. Sega brought a heavy hitter from the arcades to the PC with Virtua Fighter 2, and I loved it. I mean, I sucked at it, and won close to no fights against friends, but I had so much fun with it and couldn't believe that it actually ran on my PC. And yeah, it did just that, run. It wasn't smooth or looked great, but I had fun anyway. And VF2 is the thinking man's fighting game. It is less about explosive attacks and super specials, and more about realistic martial arts, timing, natural combos and positioning. For me, it was a huge deal. In 1997, Myth the Fallen Lords flipped the RTS genre on its head. There was no base building or resource gathering in it at all, and it focused entirely on pure real-time fantasy tactics. Unit formations, terrain advantage, and a surprisingly grim but captivating story made it a unique and unforgettable strategy experience, to the point that I actually dabbled in it, and I usually skip or overlook most RTS games. Get your freak on. I mean, funk on. Let's not mistake the decades here, because we're hitting the road in Interstate 76. It's a vehicular combat game with soul. Set in alternate 1970s, you play as vigilante in a souped-up muscle car, taking down villains to a killer funk soundtrack. The style, the story, the action, it was pure unadulterated cool, and you were a part of it. How do you adapt a cinematic masterpiece? Even more so, one about androids dreaming of electric sheep. Oh wait, that's just a title, right? Never mind then. Well, Westwood's Blade Runner showed us how. This was no simple point and click. It was a real-time adventure where the story progressed with or without you, and key characters could be replicants or humans in different playthroughs. Even you could be one. A replicant, that is. Blade Runner captured the film noir's atmosphere perfectly and is by many considered a true work of art to this very day. In 1997, Capcom's arcade smash hit X-Men Children of the Atom finally landed on PC. It was the game that laid the groundwork for the entire Marvel vs. Capcom series, proving that not only it could be good, but also sell rather well. It was fast, chaotic, featured massive sprites of your favorite characters from both franchises, and let you live out your fantasy of pulling off a colossal optic blast as Cyclops against Ryu's deadly Hadouken. If Age of Empires was about historical tactics, Total Annihilation was about futuristic, apocalyptic warfare on a scale never seen before. We're talking hundreds of 3D units, massive explosions, and all of that in a fantastic multiplayer. For many this is still pinnacle of large-scale RTS action. For me, well, I give it a couple of hours, but it never drew me in. I'm not an RTS gamer though, so hardly anything in the genre can. War never changes. But Fallout was a game that changed everything. It is set in a bleak, retro-futuristic post-nuclear wasteland, giving players unparalleled freedom. Sure, you had a quest to save your dying vault by finding a replacement water chip, but did you really have to focus on just that? I'm sure you know the answer. Fallout's unique special system, its dark humor, mature themes and impactful choices created not just a game, but a living and breathing world. War may not change at all, but Fallout's legacy lives on. There are very few quote-unquote modern motor racing games that I enjoy, and Delphine Software's Moto Racer is one of them. It gave us two incredible racing experiences in one. You could be scrapping your knees on the asphalt of a street circuit 1 minute and then launching off a dirt ramp in a motocross event next. And while the street racing was more fun than motocross for me, I enjoyed both. The sense of speed in Moto Racer was out of this world, and it was also a graphical tour de force, at least on PC. Stylish, bizarre and incredibly inventive, there was nothing else quite like MDK. Playing is scored hectic, it skydive into massive city-sized ships, sniping enemies from miles away with a helmet-mounted scope before landing to finish the job. It was weird, it was wonderful, it was shiny entertainment at its best. And it was one of the very few at the time really good third-person action shooter games on PC. I freaking loved the original Worms. It was one of the most fun and feature-packed local hot seat multiplayer experiences that you could have in the 1990s, and Worms 2 expanded on its scope. It perfected the turn-based artillery formula with online multiplayer, high-resolution cartoonish presentation and a huge arsenal of insane weapons. The Holy Hand Grenade, the Super Ship, the Concrete Donkey. It was, and still is as a matter of fact, a multiplayer masterpiece that gave birth to later legendary Worms Armageddon. Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 was the ultimate Star Wars fantasy. It gave you a blaster, sure, but more importantly, it gave you a lightsaber and force powers. And there was hardly anything more fun in 1997 than deflecting stormtroopers' shots than using the force on them. The choice between the light and the dark side, the incredible level design and the thrilling saber duels made it an absolute must-play for any fan of the galaxy far, far away. The third entry in the legendary series, XCOM Apocalypse, took the fight to a single, massive futuristic megacity. Building on the events of two previous entries, or more accurately, it built on the fragile remnants of humanity's narrow victory in the earlier wars. It was incredibly ambitious, featured a complex political landscape between corporations and a real-time tactical combat alongside traditional turn-based mode. It's a dense, demanding and at times punishing game that's also proportionately rewarding when things finally started going your way. The Last Express, part point-and-clicker, part true work of art, was an adventure game set in real-time aboard the Orient Express on the eve of World War I. Using a unique rotoscope animation style, it told a mature story of intrigue and murder. While it was sadly a commercial failure, it garnered critical recognition over time and is now held as a darling masterpiece of interactive storytelling. Wipeout XL, aka Wipeout 2097, was a PlayStation titan, but in 1997 it brought its anti-gravity, futuristic racing to PC. It was mind-blowing fast, stylishly cool, and backed by an iconic electronica soundtrack featuring legends of the genre such as Fluke and The Prodigy. This was racing for the rave generation. For those who found Need for Speed not quite fast enough, Wipeout XL definitely delivered. Anyone can build a city. I mean, in the game, that is. But building a city and then dealing with gangsters, hippies and psychotic clowns? Now that's another thing entirely. and Constructor was a city builder with a mean streak. You competed against rivals by building up your properties while simultaneously sabotaging theirs with a host of undesirable tenants and other rather shady actions. It was a viciously funny British gem of video game design. If you thought that Myst was challenging, you weren't prepared for Riven. This sequel was breathtakingly beautiful, presenting a world of immense detail and scale across 5 CDs. Its puzzles were fiendishly difficult but flawlessly integrated into the world's logic, demanding total immersion and critical thinking from the player. Was it a game for me? Nah, I'm too chaotic and my memory sucks, but fans of demanding adventures still praise it to this very day. You've no idea how I loved Sega Rally Championship in the arcades. I mean, at least as much as I love PB&J, and I really love the PB. Not so much J, but they go well when on same slice of bread. And 1997 Sega Rally Championship brought the sound and the atmosphere of the arcades home. It perfectly captured the thrill of rally racing, focusing on sublime handling and power slides. It wasn't the most content-rich or realistic racer, but in terms of pure, unadulterated driving fun, it was second to none. After a few years, that no doubt felt like the eternity to the fans, Might and Magic 6 brought the series back with a massive, open and non-linear world that was an absolute joy to explore. Featuring modern, high-resolution 3D graphics, an accessible interface and a sprawling first-person RPG experience, it could easily devour hundreds of hours of your life. Though I joined the party a little late, picking up years later, I thoroughly enjoyed every minute. Also known as Twin Sense Oddysee, Little Big Adventure 2 was a charming and imaginative action-adventure from France. Playing as the hero Twinsen, you explore a quirky and colorful world while saving it from alien invaders. Utterly unique, it's remembered with incredible fondness. It built on the foundation laid by the first game, not only continuing its story, but also expanding the graphical engine to a fully real 3D world. Carmageddon was the game your parents didn't want you to know about. Much like Mortal Kombat a few years earlier. Of course, with parents few years behind technologically, what they wanted and what you had access to were two very different things. The goal of Carmageddon wasn't just to race, but to wreck your opponents, or, well, run over every living thing inside. It was a festival of vehicular violence that sparked a media firestorm and became a poster child for the rebellious attitude era of the 1990s. Taking the fantasy FPS concept of the original further, Hexen II had you choose from one of 4 classes: Paladin, Crusader, Necromancer or Assassin, each of them with unique weapons and abilities. It was a Quake engine-powered blend of action and RPG that stood out from the crowd. It wasn't just about blasting monsters. Hexen II threw in lots of puzzles and environmental challenges, keeping you on your toes. It was a true classic that is as much about brains as it is about brawn. The cars in Ignition may be tiny, but the fun that it delivered was enormous. This top-down racer was an absolute blast, especially in multiplayer. The game featured a quirky lineup of vehicles, from school buses to police cars, all racing across chaotic, multi-level tracks filled with hazards and jumps. Ignition was a perfectly crafted racer, offering a simple, addictive and most importantly, super fun gameplay loop. The epic space opera continued in Wing Commander Prophecy, introducing a terrifying new alien threat and a stunning graphics engine that made 3D Accelerator cards sing. It was a cinematic and thrilling ride that proved single-player story-driven space combat still had serious firepower. And while it wasn't Star Wars, it delivered same, galaxy-spanning drama and dogfighting action on its own terms. Oddworld Apes Oddysee was a cinematic puzzle platformer unlike any other. You played as Abe, a clumsy but well-meaning Mudokon trying to save his people from becoming a tasty snack to occupational forces of glucons. The unique GameSpeak system and dark industrial world made for an unforgettable adventure, and the puzzles that required you to often direct other characters or take over enemies as pawns were as mind-blowing as they were fun to figure out. Get ready, fight! Mortal Kombat Trilogy brought nearly every character from the first 3 games into one brutal package, making it the ultimate compilation for fans. While not as technically sharp as the arcade originals, having that massive roster on PC was a dream come true. One Sub-Zero versus another, 2 Kanos, sure, 2 Scorpions, why not? Any rivalry you could imagine could be tested in Trilogy, and it was pure, gory fun. Flawless victory, fatality. The duo protagonists from the original, George Stobbart and Nico Collard, returned for another globe-trotting adventure in Broken Sword 2. This sequel delivered another compelling mystery rooted in Mayan prophecy, filled with the same sharp writing, clever puzzles and beautiful hand-drawn art that made the first game a classic. And let me tell you, point-and-clicking is rarely as captivating as it is here.
As the liquid was squeezed from the root, it...
I would wager a guess that Star Wars fans had argued for years about which ship was better, the nimble TIE Fighter or the rugged X-Wing. X-Wing vs TIE Fighter finally let them settle it, offering the first game in the series built from the ground up for multiplayer dogfighting. Teaming up with friends to take down a Star Destroyer was a gaming moment for the ages. While it launched without a story campaign, the thrilling space battles and squad coordination made it a must-play for aspiring starfighter aces. Last but not least, Monolith's Claw was a beautiful 2D side-scrolling platformer starring a swashbuckling pirate cat captain. In an era obsessed with early 3D, Claw wisely stuck to the traditional side-view formula, avoiding clunky polygons in favor of detailed, hand-drawn animation. The result was gorgeous, challenging and expertly crafted love letter to the 16-bit classics, and a cult fan favorite to this very day. It even featured LAN multiplayer, secret treasure hunts and some surprisingly tough boss battles for those brave enough to meow in the face of danger. Meow. Ooh, what a lineup! And that's not even all of them. Looking back, it's clear that 1997 wasn't just a great year, it was a turning point. It was a year where many classic genres were perfected and countless new were born. So what do you think? Was 1997 the best ever on PC? What were your favorites from this incredible year? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. Like the video if you liked it, smash sub if you'd like to see more, and hit that bell icon to hear the gong. Or for YouTube to remind you of new uploads. You know, either or. Thanks a lot for watching, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.